Because of the loss of the great Rob Reiner earlier this year, I figured I'd take a look at one of his less than stellar films, or at least what critics consider less than stellar usually. And that's one starring Alec Baldwin, Whoopi Goldberg, and James Woods in an applauded role titled Ghosts of the Mississippi. And that's a film we're going to be looking at this week on Masterpiece Theater.
Going back to 1963, were you married at that time?
Yes, I was.
And to whom were you married?
Medgar Wiley Evers.
And that was a scene from Ghosts of Mississippi. And that's something that critics generally didn't care for once it came out. Of course, it was going up against some phenomenal films that year. But this is a movie starring Alec Baldwin, Whoopi Goldberg, and James Woods, and as well as several other great stars and a great supporting cast. On paper, Ghosts of Mississippi looks very good and reminds me a lot of ways of films like Mississippi Burning, or even some ways of Time or To Kill, the old one starring Matthew McConaughey and Samuel L. Jackson. Of course, the difference between that one and Ghosts of the Mississippi and the latter is that Ghosts of Mississippi is based on a true story. This film is narratively, it's about the widow of a Mississippi civil rights activist, Medgar Evers, and his assassination, I believe in the 1960s. And this follows his widow, played by Whoopi Goldberg, as she tries to seek out justice and have the man prosecuted who was responsible for her husband's death, with the help of Alec Baldwin, who's an assistant district attorney in a kind of racially charged southern town. Of course, this film takes place, again, it's a true story, in late 1980s into the early 1990s. And that's basically the first... We open this film, guys, by seeing Medgar Evers assassinated. Then the film jumps forward. Now, from that period of time until the end of the second act, basically Alec Baldwin is putting together his case against this former Ku Klux Klan member who assassinated this civil rights leader. And it's that moment I have a problem with in this film. It drags in the second act. Now, I do disagree with many of my contemporary reviewers, such as this one who wrote on Letterboxd, that this is a white savior film. And I don't believe that's a particularly good brush to paint this picture with, guys. I mean, this is just a film about a man who should have, or somebody who did the right thing when the right thing should have been done long ago. I don't think it's fair, ironically, to paint this film with a racially charged brush, despite the fact it's a racially motivated film. Because that's not really what the agenda here is. It's not fair to insert some agenda and say, oh, this man was white, so it's about painting white people in the right light. Alec Baldwin's character, this assistant district attorney, had the ability to act, and he had the legal power to act. And for once, and it took 30 years or 25 years, however long it took to prosecute this man successfully, it took that long for it to happen. And it just so happened Alec Baldwin's character was white. So I disagree with that film reviewer. However, all that aside, this is a compassionate, compelling, true story and a victory for justice in the southern United States. That said, the film itself, and examining just the film itself, again, it lulls in the second act. Rob Reiner didn't seem to use these gifted character actors he had to full effect. For example, he had access to William H. Macy, who was relegated to a very small role where he spewed out the most bland lines I've seen in any sort of script ever, guys. I mean, what a waste of a phenomenal character actor here with William H. Macy. But Alec Baldwin, he didn't even, his performance was kind of flat until the third act. And it wasn't until that final cliche prosecution speech that he gave to convince the jury of James Woods' guilt that his acting ability kind of shined through. So I had those problems with Ghosts of Mississippi, but I also would have enjoyed focusing a bit more of Medgar Evers' life. You know, before I saw this film and read up on him, I didn't know who he was at all. And there's probably a few folks out there that weren't aware of his story. And I found that sad because it's a very compelling case and it's a very compelling set of events. And it's thank God that his widow got the justice that man deserved. But that aside, I would have loved to have seen us be emotionally anchored more into his life and his times, at least for 10 more extra minutes, other than his assassination. Now, Whoopi Goldberg did a great job, but she wasn't given quite that much to work with. William H. Macy was given less to work with. James Woods was nominated for his work, and so was this film for makeup. They were nominated. But again, this film didn't make its budget back. This film flopped when it originally came out. That's not saying that Ghost of Mississippi is a bad movie. It just fell flat in the second act. It needed some more emotionally charged elements regarding the civil rights leader himself. Whoopi Goldberg's character could have used some more screen time, and I believe it needed a great score, a great epic score, to make it truly have that emotional gravitas that films like A Time to Kill had. Nevertheless, I do give this film a solid 3 stars because of the subject matter, and it's a decent film. Just don't go into it expecting to see Mississippi Burning or something that carries that emotional weight of A Time to Kill, guys. But that's going to be it for this review. Let's get on to our feature of the week. And now for our feature of the week. Making their Broadway debut, Adrian Brody, a 2-time Academy Award winner, and Tessa Thompson now star in the Broadway feature The Fear of 13, which is an amazing, remarkable, true story about truth and the fight for justice of a man who was falsely imprisoned for 22 years. This film is directed by this Broadway feature is directed by David Cronin, and it's supposed to be really great, guys. If you're in the area of New York, Broadway, you can go online and get tickets now. Just type in The Fear of 13 if you're lucky enough to see this. And it's only going to be available for about 3 months, a few weeks, but I highly recommend it. I'd love to. I've seen the old 2015 documentary that this is based on. And it's a remarkable true story of a man who was falsely convicted and then later exonerated based on DNA evidence. But thank you guys for watching, and until next week, the balcony is closed.